All right, so this is going to be our first time taking notes in Foundations. Everything that you see on the screen you need to write in your notepad. If you miss something, just hit pause. Make sure you get it all written down. If you have any questions about anything, be sure to ask in class, okay? All right, so our first section is on divisibility tests. And all that means is figuring out what parts make up a number. So you can determine if a number is divisible by another number using a set of rules. So every number kind of has a set of rules that make it easy to decide these things. So we're going to start with the easy ones. So, for example, you can tell if something is divisible by 2 if it is an even number. Which means it ends in, scoot that over a little bit, 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. Any number that ends in one of those 5 numbers will always be divisible by 2, which means basically you can split it in half, okay, without anything left over. So an example of that would be 14, 236, 4,738, or 1,000,002. Okay, those are all divisible by 2. We can cut all those in half evenly without anything left over. The rule for 3s is if the sum of the digits is a multiple of 3, then that number is a multiple of 3. Okay? So what I mean by that is, let's take a number. So let's try 216. Okay? So if you look at that number, now you're going to say, oh, wait a minute, ends in an even number. So it's, now knowing what you just learned, it's divisible by 2. But how are we going to determine if it's divisible by 3? So what we're going to do is we're going to add these 3 digits together. Okay? So we're going to do 2 plus 1 plus 6. So 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 6 equals 9. Well, 9 is divisible by 3 because 3 times 3 equals 9, which means this entire number is divisible by 3. Okay? The rule for 4 is that if the last 2 digits are a multiple of 4, the number, the whole number, is a multiple of 4. Okay? So let's do an example of that. Let's take 2,628. Okay? To decide if that is a multiple of 4 or not, you actually don't even have to look at these first 2 numbers. All you're going to look at is the last 2. And then you have to ask yourself, was 28 a multiple of 4? Well, 7 times 4 equals 28. With nothing left over, we're not missing anything, so it is a multiple of 4, so this entire number would be a multiple of 4. The easiest way to explain that is because these are all hundreds, right? 2,600 or 2,600. Well, 100 is 25 times 4, so any group of hundreds will also be divisible by 4. So you only have to worry about these last 2 numbers on the end. Okay, 5 is the easy one. 5s, if you think about counting by 5s, right? Count 5, 10, 15, 20, right? And keep on going. Well, what do all of those have in common? End in a 5, end in a 0. End in a 5, end in a 0. So all multiples of 5 will end in 5 or 0, always. So 2005, 19,170, those are all multiples of 5. Okay? All right, 6. 6 you got to think about a little bit. But let's just think about what is 6? What makes up 6? So two numbers that you can multiply together to get 6 are 2 times 3. So for 6, the rule is if it is divisible by 2 and 3. So in order to decide that, you're really going to look at both of the rules you talked about up here. So start with the 3, because that's the one that's going to help you the most. So it has to, if you add up all the digits, it has to be, that number has to be a multiple of 3, like we talked about up here. But now it also has to be ending in an even number. So let's look at 216 again. Okay, so we already determined that 216 is divisible by 3. We already know that. And we also know that 216 is divisible by 3. And because it ends in an even number, ends in a 6, you can also divide that number by 2, which means the whole thing is divisible by 6. Okay? Do another easier example of that. What about, let's think of things that multiply, that are multiples of 6. So 6 times 5 is 30. Okay? Well, 30, let's see if we can divide that by 3. So our first rule is 3 plus 0, which equals 3, and you can divide 3 by 3, that equals 1. So that works. And then 30 ends in a 0, so that means it's divisible by 2, so that works. So 6 does go into 30, and we know that 30 divided by 6 equals 5. You're going to see me use a slash for division a lot. That's a more algebraic way of looking at things. It also represents a fraction, which is exactly what division represents. So as a part of a whole. Okay, probably the easiest one of all is the rule of tens. Related to the rule of 5, except it only ever ends in a 0. So think of money. Money is the easiest way to think about this. You have a bunch of $10 bills, and you're going to count by tens. So you have 10, 20, 30, 40. You're just counting by tens. This value in the 1 space is never changing. That's always going to be a 0. Okay? So, I guess I should put that down here, but that's okay. So the rule is that the number always ends in a 0. Okay? So there's notes. Easy, right? On to 1-2.